The First Book of Jazz by Langston Hughes. Just for fun. When little Louis Armstrong, who was born on the 4th of July, 1900, started singing for pennies on street corners in New Orleans, he was about 10 years old. Before he was 12, with Happy, Little Mac, and Georgie, he formed a quartet. Louis sang bass and sometimes whistled through his fingers like a clarinet. The four boys would move up and down Perdido Street, harmonizing beneath people's windows in the evening. But sometimes, instead of having coins showered down upon them, they would be angrily chased away. Louis thought that perhaps a guitar would help their music, and be more fun too. So he made himself a sort of ukulele from a cigar box, nailing a flat piece of wood to it for a neck, then stringing some wire from the neck tightly across the open side of his box. The other boys probably put together homemade instruments for themselves too, so that they could all have a band for fun. Maybe the only thing they bought was a cheap mouth organ for Little Mac. As many boys in the South have done, Happy found an old tin washtub somewhere, and at its side, pointing upward, he placed a tall strip of plasterboard. From a nail hole in the center of the tub to the tip end of the board, he ran a stout brown cord and pulled it taut. That is the way Happy made himself a double bass. Georgie borrowed his mother's washboard to stroke, putting on the ends of his fingers as many thimbles as she would let him have. When Georgie stroked the washboard, it made rhythm. Maybe Mac played on his harmonica a lively little blues tune he had learned by ear. So we can imagine the four boys together in the backyard playing at music, with Louis picking at the strings of his cigar box and singing, Happy plunking his washtub, Little Mac blowing his harmonica, and Georgie stroking gaily on his washboard. After a while, they made such a happy beat that the other children in their neighborhood came running to sing and dance to their playing. Their band was fun. Many young people have made such washboard bands, putting together their own instruments out of anything at hand. Some of these bands have been recorded by the big record companies. In New Orleans, before Louis was born, there was a band that is still written about in books today. A blind newsboy whose nickname was Stale Bread started a little street corner band with homemade instruments. Perhaps one of his players even had a washboard. Maybe another shook two spoons together like minstrel bones. Maybe one newsboy used a box for a drum, and perhaps another had a mouth organ. At any rate, they made such lively music that sometimes all of them would start jigging as they played, shaking their shoulders and bobbing their heads as if they had the St. Vitus dance, and at the same time letting their feet fly so frantically that people started calling them the Spasm Band. From that time on, throughout the southern states of America, such washboard bands were called spasm bands. Young people, like the newsboy Stale Bread of long ago, still put together such bands, particularly in small towns and country places. In the Tennessee mountains, sometimes their leader blows into a jug, and the band is called a jug band. Sometimes, instead of a mouth organ, maybe a tin whistle or a kazoo is used, or tunes are played on a comb with a thin piece of paper over it. Sometimes a dishpan is used for a drum. There is never any written music. The tunes are remembered or made up as the players play, and to the players, it is play, just for fun. That is how the music called jazz began, with people playing for fun.
Can you imagine that? Well, what you gonna play tomorrow?